During my tenure here, I had to travel quite a bit, and I was called to travel a lot to Santa Fe, New Mexico, as part of my work. And on my travels there, one thing that I like to do is go to the Santa Fe flea market each year. And when I was there, first couple of times, I noticed that there was this gentleman that was selling honey and bee pollen. And the bee pollen was extraordinary bee pollen. It was almost psychedelic in color. It was so colorful, and it felt alive. And I was really drawn to this guy and his honey and his bee pollen. Each year and each time I would travel through Santa Fe, I would purchase some of the honey and pollen and bring back to Mayor Mount. And after a few years, the gentleman whose name was Gary explained to me that that was going to be his last year in Santa Fe, that he was moving to Australia to be a beekeeper. And it shocked me, because where am I going to get such quality honey and bee pollen? And so he said, well, maybe I can help you find it somewhere else. Where do you live in California? And I said, well, it's a little small town you probably don't know. It's called Ojai in Southern California. He says, oh, no, I know Ojai. He said, where in Ojai? I said, well, you may or may not know, but there's a little mountain range called Sulphur Mountain. So it's up on Sulphur Mountain where I live. He said, well, I'm kind of familiar with Sulphur Mountain. Where on Sulphur Mountain? I said, well, I'm sure you wouldn't know, but it was a part of the property there of Agnes Barron and Mayor Mountain. He said, oh, I know the Agnes Barron property. In the early 70s, when he was at a crossroads in his life trying to decide what he was going to do for his profession, that he had made a pilgrimage up here, much the same as a lot of people do. And while he was sitting under the tree, he looked up and noticed that there was a bee's nest inside one of the branches of the tree. And he had the inspiration, or heard the voice, that he was supposed to be a master beekeeper. And so amazing that this man got his inspiration under the tree at Mayor Mount, where I was at the time the caretaker, but yet had moved to Santa Fe and had created this extraordinary product from his inspiration that I ended up coming through, finding, and it being, again, a touchstone for me, of Mayor Mount all the way to Santa Fe. And years later, he never did make it to Australia. He actually passed away. And when he passed away, as I returned to Mayor Mount, I hadn't seen a beehive in the tree for the entire period that I was talking about. But on his passing, there was actually the beginnings of a new beehive in the hole in the limb where the tree was, I guess, had traditionally held bees. So, that was one of the more fascinating stories of how Mayor Mount and the tree and specifically was almost like a magnet for many people finding their purpose as well as expressing their purpose. And it was a touching moment to actually, when he said that he knew that his inspiration was from the tree.